I recently had a shocking experience at my birthday party that has left me feeling betrayed and confused. I am 29 years old and my wife is 30. We've been together for 5 years, having met at a seminar where we instantly clicked, eventually starting a relationship that led to marriage. Before we got married, my wife had told me about her past relationship. She had been in a very serious relationship with one of her close friend's brothers, and they had even been planning to marry. However, things didn't work out because she fell out of love with him, and they broke up when he went abroad for education and work. She hadn't seen him in nearly 9 years. Fast forward to 5 days ago, my birthday. My wife and I had been planning for the celebration for a month. We were on a tight budget, so we agreed to keep the guest list small, inviting both of our families, some close friends, neighbors, and a few colleagues we knew well. Everything seemed to be in order, and I was looking forward to spending a special day with those closest to me. However, when the party started, I was caught completely off guard by the presence of my wife's ex-fiancé. I had never met him before, and I was shocked to see him at my party, especially since I wasn't informed he would be there. I immediately asked my wife about it. She explained that he had come back to town for a few months and was invited by her friend, but she never told me about it because she knew I would object. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was my birthday, and I felt like my wife should have discussed inviting him with me. This wasn't just any guest, it was her ex-fiancé, someone she had been in love with, and I had never met him before. The fact that she didn't consult me about his presence really bothered me. It made me feel like my special day wasn't as important to her as keeping her friends happy. She insisted that it wasn't a big deal, that he was only there for a few hours, and that I was overreacting. But in my eyes, it was a huge deal. I started to lose my temper. I told her, "How would you feel if I invited my ex to your birthday party without telling you? What if my ex hugged me and laughed with me in front of you? Would that be okay?" I explained how uncomfortable and hurtful it felt to see someone who had been a part of her life for so long, especially when I had no idea what their relationship had been like or how it ended. I felt disrespected and betrayed, as it seemed like she prioritized her ex and her friends over me on my special day. It wasn't just about him being there. It was about the lack of consideration for my feelings and the fact that she hadn't even mentioned him to me beforehand. After the party, we argued more. She told me I was blowing things out of proportion and that I was hurting her with my words. She didn't understand why I was so upset. I tried to explain, but it seemed like we were talking past each other. My wife's family also didn't see the issue and sided with her, saying I was overreacting. They argued that it was no big deal and that I was being jealous. They suggested that I was just trying to get revenge or take out my anger on her. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I couldn't just let it go. A few days later, I found myself growing more suspicious, so I asked my wife to unlock her phone and let me see it. She became defensive, asking why I didn't trust her and accusing me of being jealous. But I was insistent. After some pressure, she handed me her phone, and I went through her texts and social media. At first, I didn't find anything alarming, but when I checked her friends' group chat, I found out that she had been meeting her ex alone on several occasions since he returned. She had invited him to hang out with her and her friends without telling me. The fact that this was happening behind my back was incredibly hurtful to me. I confronted her again, and she tried to explain it away, saying they had been friends long before we met. She told me I was just being jealous and controlling. But I didn't buy it. There was no reason for her to keep meeting him alone and hiding it from me. I trusted her, but this felt like a betrayal. It wasn't just about her ex. It was about the fact that she had kept this part of her life from me, and when I found out, she tried to downplay it and make me feel like I was in the wrong. At that point, I told her I needed space. I said that I couldn't continue living like this and that I was thinking about divorce. She started crying, begging me not to leave and saying we could talk and work things out. But I was done. I told her I was leaving to stay with my sister, and that if she wanted to be with her ex, I wouldn't stand in her way. I didn't know if I could ever trust her again after this. I've spent the last few days reflecting on everything that has happened, and I feel lost. I have done so much for her, and yet it feels like she betrayed me in the worst possible way. I'm heartbroken and confused, unsure of what to do next or if I can ever repair what's been broken. I've been in my 30s for a while now, and it feels like the world is against me. I've always tried to give my best to those I love, even when it seemed like I was being taken for granted. But lately, things have spiraled out of control, and I feel like I'm living in a nightmare I can't escape. My wife has been acting strangely for some time. She would go out of her way to avoid talking about certain things, especially her past relationships. I never thought much of it until I discovered the truth, and that truth shattered everything I believed in. She was meeting up with her ex without telling me, and I found out in the worst possible way. I felt completely betrayed. What hit hardest was that I had been so invested in our relationship. I sacrificed so much for her, even putting aside my own happiness. I hadn't celebrated a birthday in years, and yet I was looking forward to this one. But instead of being surrounded by people who loved me, she invited her ex to join us. It felt like the final blow. She had parties with her friends and family while I worked hard to provide for her. Everything I did for her seemed like it meant nothing. It's hard to comprehend why someone would betray you like this. If you love someone else, why stay with the person you're with? Why not be honest and leave? Instead, she continued to hide her feelings, playing games with me, causing pain just to satisfy her own desires. I was left questioning my worth, wondering why I deserved this kind of treatment. My sister, thankfully, has been a strong support for me. She's been helping me through this emotional mess, and I know she feels the pain of seeing me suffer. The anger I feel is overwhelming, and it's hard to know whether I should keep quiet about what's happened or expose everything. I'm torn. Part of me wants to protect myself and move on, but another part wants the world to know the truth. I'm so conflicted, struggling to make sense of my emotions. I've never been this lost before, and there have been moments where I considered giving up completely. If it weren't for my sister, I wouldn't have had anyone to talk to. She's been my lifeline. 6 days after I wrote about the situation, things have only gotten worse. My wife reached out to me, apologizing and begging me to give her a chance. She promised she'd never talk to her ex again and suggested that we move away, start over, and forget the past. She said she was sorry, that she was willing to do anything to make it right. But after everything that happened, I couldn't just forget. I couldn't pretend like things were fine. I had been holding everything in, and when she called, I broke down. I called her every name I could think of. I screamed at her for all the lies, the manipulation, and the way she had taken advantage of me. I worked hard for us, and she was with someone else. Even though I wanted to keep my dignity, I couldn't help but let the anger out. I felt like I had been nothing but a pawn in her game. The more she apologized, the angrier I became. After our conversation, I told everyone what happened. I couldn't keep it a secret anymore. It felt good to finally speak up, even though it made things worse. Her family's reactions were a mix of support and disbelief. Some of her relatives reached out to reassure me, while others, including her mother, blamed me for everything. Her mom even accused me of lying and trying to ruin her daughter's life. The whole situation was a mess, and I didn't know who to trust anymore. At least her father understood my side and said he was disappointed with his wife's and daughter's behavior. He promised to stay neutral, but I could tell he didn't support what they were doing. My sister, who had already been helping me, told me she had consulted a lawyer, someone very good at what they do. She also informed me of the legal process in our country. Divorce is complicated here, and without concrete proof of her affair, it could drag on for years. Even if I proved her infidelity, she would still be entitled to alimony. The whole legal system felt like a slap in the face. It made me even more angry, but I had to accept it. I had no choice but to face the reality of the situation. I'm still struggling to cope with everything. I've stopped drinking, at least for now, because I know that it only makes things worse. I'm trying to focus on myself, trying to get through this. I've been thinking a lot about emotional affairs. Even if she never physically cheated on me, hiding her connection with her ex was a betrayal in itself. I've always believed that no one should tolerate emotional infidelity, no matter who is involved. The pain it causes is just as real as any other kind of cheating. I wish I could go back to the way things were before all the hurt and betrayal. But I know that isn't possible. It's time for me to heal and move forward, even though it feels impossible right now. I'll never forget what happened, but I hope that I can eventually find peace and move on from this nightmare. I just want to thank everyone who has supported me through this. I hope no one else has to go through something like this, and I wish the best for all of you.